What would you do if the man you trusted most used you, robbed you, and then laughed while kicking you out of your own home? I'm Rebecca Thompson, 32 years old, and 6 months ago, I was standing at the edge of our marble driveway, pulling two heavy suitcases behind me with tears in my eyes, but not for long, because what Marcus didn't know was that I had already started playing a very different game. I had built a good life. After graduating from Columbia Law School, I worked my way up to become a senior corporate attorney at one of the top firms in New York, Harrington and Blake. I specialized in contract law, and let's just say I knew how to protect assets. Ironically, I never thought I'd need to protect mine from my own husband. I met Marcus at a charity gala. He was charming, smooth, and full of vision. Encryption will change the world, he said, flashing that confident smile. His startup, Secure Frame Technologies, was working on software that could protect any business's data better than anything else on the market. He asked questions about my work, remembered details, and seemed genuinely interested in me, not just my resume. In just 3 months, we were talking about our future. In 8 months, we were engaged. And after a year, we were married. It felt like a dream, but dreams have a way of turning into nightmares. And mine began the moment I received my inheritance. My parents had died in a plane crash returning from their anniversary trip. It was sudden and devastating. I was their only child, and after the estate was settled, I inherited a little over $5 million. That money didn't feel like a blessing. It felt like a reminder of what I had lost. Marcus was supportive, at least at first. He held me through the worst of my grief and told me he'd spent his life honoring my parents' memory. But something changed the moment the money hit my account. We were sitting on the balcony of our Central Park apartment, the one we moved into after our wedding, when he toasted to new beginnings. He mentioned his startup was running into funding issues. Without more capital, they'd need to lay off the development team. I asked, what would it take to keep things running? He hesitated. About $3 million. And just like that, I made a decision. Let me invest, I told him. Not as your wife, as a partner. We drew up contracts. I invested $3 million for a 25% stake in the company and a promised seat on the board. Everything looked legitimate. I even had his corporate attorney on the calls. At first, it seemed like things were moving forward. But slowly, Marcus began changing. He came home late. Our weekends disappeared. He said he was working overtime, fighting for our shared future. But I noticed receipts, a $12,000 charge at Tiffany's, a luxury hotel booking we never stayed in, lavish dinners with clients I never met. When I asked questions, he brushed me off. You don't trust me anymore? He asked, offended. I'm building something for us, but something didn't feel right. And then one afternoon, everything came crashing down. I had just returned from a work trip when Marcus called me into the living room. He was sipping champagne. Thanks for the $5 million, darling, he said with a smirk. I needed it to build my company. Now get out. My new girlfriend needs space. Just like that. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just smiled. Because Marcus didn't know, I had already been preparing. Before the money hit our accounts, I had created multiple legal safeguards. I had filed intellectual property agreements around his tech. I had opened shadow ownership documents with my corporate connections. I had even placed a clause in our marital agreement that gave me rights to company records in case of separation or betrayal. He thought he was kicking me out, but I was just getting started. I walked out of that mansion without a single word. Marcus was still smiling, sipping champagne, as if he had won. But what he didn't know was that I had already started protecting myself months ago. Even before I gave him the $3 million, something inside me felt cautious. Maybe it was the lawyer in me, or maybe deep down, I never fully trusted that someone could love me without thinking about what I could give them. So I had created my own paper trail. I didn't just transfer the money directly to him. I created a legal contract, signed and reviewed by his company's attorney. That contract clearly said I was an investor in Secure Frame Technologies, owning 25% equity and a future board seat. It also gave me access to all company financials, product plans, and internal communication if I ever suspected fraud. And yes, I made sure the contract included a fraud clause. That meant if Marcus misused funds or acted in bad faith, I could call for a full audit and even take the matter to court. At the time, Marcus had called it unnecessary. He told me, why do we need all these papers between husband and wife? But I insisted, because I'm not giving this to you as your wife, Marcus. I'm giving it to you as a serious investor. He had agreed, because he needed the money. And now I was ready to use every single line of that contract against him. The first thing I did after moving into a hotel was contact my financial advisor, Cheryl. She had helped manage my family's assets before and knew the full story. I gave her the entire rundown. The $3 million investment, the sudden shift in Marcus's behavior, the luxury expenses, and finally how he had thrown me out with no warning. Cheryl didn't even blink. Let's call for a forensic audit, she said, and we're going to reach out to the other investors too. If Marcus is misusing funds,
They'll want to know. I still had access to our shared email folder, and from there, I found a list of early investors in SecureFrame. I drafted a professional but clear message. Subject urgent. Concerns regarding financial management at SecureFrame Technologies. Dear investor name, as a 25% equity holder in SecureFrame Technologies, I'm reaching out regarding recent findings that raise concerns about the misuse of investor funds. Certain expenditures appear to be for personal use, unrelated to company operations. I am initiating a forensic audit as outlined in our operating agreement. As a fellow stakeholder, I believe transparency is in everyone's best interest. Please let me know if you've noticed similar red flags or if you'd like to join the audit process. I sent it to 5 key investors listed in the financial projections Marcus had once proudly shared with me. Within 48 hours, 3 replied. 2 had already been asking questions Marcus had avoided. 1 had suspected he was using company funds for personal travel. They all agreed to participate in the audit. And just like that, the cracks started to show. The forensic accountant Cheryl hired was quick and brutal. Within 2 weeks, the report showed thousands of dollars spent on luxury gifts, hotels, and what looked like romantic weekend getaways. None of those expenses were linked to SecureFrame's business needs. They weren't even disguised well. He had paid for first-class flights to Mexico for 2, listed as a developer retreat. He had bought a $9,000 necklace, listed as client relations expense. Even the Tiffany purchase he claimed was for investors' wives. It never made it to anyone except his new girlfriend. This was enough for legal action. But I didn't stop there. I asked Cheryl to prepare a formal notice to Marcus and the SecureFrame team. It clearly stated that I was exercising my rights as a board-level investor to call for an emergency meeting, review the full books, and suspend Marcus as CEO, pending a full investigation. He couldn't ignore it, not legally. The board wasn't formal yet, but I had a clause in the contract that said if a board wasn't formed within 6 months of investment, I had authority to appoint an interim advisory board for oversight. And guess what? Marcus had never created a board. That meant I could appoint one. So I did. 2 weeks later, we met in the conference room of SecureFrame's new office in Midtown. Marcus walked in with a smug grin, clearly expecting to control the room like always, until he saw me sitting at the head of the table. To his right sat Cheryl, and next to her the 3 early investors I had contacted. To his left sat the forensic accountant and a legal representative. He opened his mouth to speak, but I raised a hand. This is an official investor review meeting, I said calmly. Based on clauses 7B and 8D of the operating agreement, I've called this session to discuss misuse of funds and possible executive misconduct. He blinked. Rebecca, what the hell is this? You'll have your turn to speak, I replied. Right now, we're reviewing the audit results. The report was read aloud, page by page. His face went from red to pale. For every receipt, I had supporting evidence. For every lie, I had the truth. When it ended, one of the investors spoke. We trusted you with our money. You've used it like a personal piggy bank. You're done. Another added, if you don't step down, we'll sue. Marcus looked at me like he had never seen me before. You planned this? He asked, almost whispering. No, I said, you did when you betrayed me. By the end of the week, Marcus was forced to resign. I appointed an interim CEO, someone the investors trusted. The company's accounts were frozen until legal cleanup was finished. Marcus's shares were locked pending litigation. I had turned the tables, not with yelling, not with revenge posts online, but with calm strategic moves, one document at a time. 2 weeks after Marcus was removed as CEO of SecureFrame, I thought things would calm down, but of course they didn't. Because Marcus Reynolds wasn't just arrogant, he was dangerous when cornered, and the moment he lost control of the company he built with my money, he did exactly what a man like him would do. He sued me. It started with a letter from his new attorney. It accused me of hostile interference, breach of marital trust, and unauthorized corporate actions. He demanded the return of his shares, claimed I had no right to fire him, and even threatened to sue for emotional distress. I sat there reading the letter in silence, then passed it to Cheryl across my kitchen table. She read it, blinked once and said, he really doesn't get it, does he? No, he didn't. Marcus truly believed he could bully his way back in, just like he had bullied me during our marriage. But now, he wasn't up against the woman he could manipulate with flowers and charm. He was up against a woman who knew every single clause of the contract, because she had written it. We filed a response immediately. My lawyer, a sharp, calm woman named Dana Price, tore his claims apart line by line. Hostile interference. Not possible. I had investor approval and documented evidence of misconduct. Breach of marital trust. Not recognized in corporate law. Unauthorized actions. The operating agreement gave me full legal grounds for everything I had done. To make things worse for Marcus, not me, we attached the forensic audit as an exhibit. Hotel receipts. Jewelry invoices. Personal trips listed as corporate expenses. The man had practically written his own downfall. Dana's final paragraph was cold and clear. If Mr. Reynolds wishes to proceed with a lawsuit, please be advised we are prepared to file a counterclaim for fraud, misuse of investor funds, and breach of fiduciary duty. I thought that would scare him off. But no. 2 weeks later, Marcus filed a public lawsuit, naming me as the defendant.
It hit the news fast. Not major headlines, but enough for tech blogs to notice. Startup CEO ousted by investor wife. Secure frame drama spills into court. Millionaire couple battles over company control. At first, I was embarrassed, but then something unexpected happened. The journalists started digging, and they found what I hadn't yet. Marcus's new girlfriend, the one he kicked me out for, wasn't just his lover. She was also a tech influencer on TikTok, who couldn't keep her mouth shut. I had never looked her up. I had never even asked her name. But now, she was all over the internet. She had posted videos from inside the Secure Frame office. One of them, posted weeks before Marcus kicked me out, showed her opening a gift box marked for B, with a caption that said, "When your CEO boyfriend spoils you more than the investors." In another, she panned across the apartment Marcus and I had shared, sipping wine and saying, "The startup life has perks." She even made a video joking about stealing someone's man and their money. I don't think she realized she had just admitted to everything on camera. I sent the videos to Dana. Her reply, "This is gold." We filed a countersuit the next day. This time I was the one suing Marcus for breach of fiduciary duty, investor fraud, and marital misconduct tied to business dealings. We included screenshots of his girlfriend's videos, financial records, and a detailed list of everything I had paid for. Then Dana reached out to Marcus's attorney and made one final offer. "Drop the case, sign over your shares, and walk away quietly, or we'll see you in court, with witnesses, recordings, and a jury that won't like liars." It was checkmate. Marcus didn't reply for 4 days. Then on Friday morning, his lawyer sent back a signed agreement. He would drop the lawsuit. He would give up his shares, and in return I would not pursue further civil action, for now. The investors backed it. The board backed it. And most of all, I was finally free of Marcus Reynolds. But here's the thing. The damage to his reputation was already done. His girlfriend's videos went viral. People began reposting them with hashtags like "startup scammer" and "CEO from hell." Tech blogs ripped into him. One wrote an article titled, "The Rise and Fall of Marcus Reynolds, When Ego Ruins Everything. His New Startup Prospects, Dead." No one would invest in a man known for stealing from his own company and gifting it to a TikTok girlfriend. And Secure Frame, we moved on without him. In the following months, we rebuilt the company culture from the inside out. I brought in a new leadership team. One of the early developers, someone Marcus had almost fired, became head of product. We rewrote our mission to focus on integrity, transparency, and long-term value. I didn't want to just recover. I wanted to transform. Because yes, I had been betrayed, but I had also discovered my strength. And not just the strength to survive, the strength to lead. And Marcus, the last I heard, he moved to Miami. His girlfriend left him after her TikTok brand collapsed. One of her videos was banned for violating community standards. Somehow, I don't think she'll be getting any brand deals anytime soon. As for Marcus, he hasn't tried to reach out again, because he knows, I'm not the woman he married. I'm the woman he underestimated. After Marcus signed the papers and gave up his shares in Secure Frame, I finally felt like I could breathe again. The storm was over, but the damage he left behind, emotionally and professionally, was real. I had lost my husband. I had almost lost my company. And worst of all, I had nearly lost my belief in people. But now I had a choice. I could keep looking back and thinking about everything I lost, or I could start building something better. Not just for me, but for my parents, whose memory still guided me. For the team that stuck by me when things got hard. And for every woman who had ever been told to just stay quiet and support your man. So that's what I decided to do. The first step was rebuilding the company from the inside out. Secure Frame still had a solid product in development. The encryption software that Marcus once bragged about wasn't just hype, it actually worked. It had real potential to change how businesses protected their data. But the team was tired, confused, hurt. They had watched their former CEO live like a celebrity, while laying off hard-working engineers. They had seen favoritism, secrecy, and manipulation. So I called an all-hands meeting. Everyone gathered in the office on a Wednesday morning. Some people looked nervous, others looked angry. I didn't blame them. I stood in front of them, not as someone trying to take over, but as someone who had been through hell, and was finally ready to lead with honesty. "I know the last few months have been hard," I began. "You've watched this company lose focus. You've seen decisions made behind closed doors. And many of you were left wondering what's going to happen next." There was silence. Then I said the words I needed to say most. "I'm sorry. Not for what Marcus did, but for not stepping in sooner. For letting my personal life interfere with my professional responsibility. But that ends today," I said. "We're going to rebuild this company together. And this time, we're going to do it right. Over the next few weeks, I made changes. Real ones. First, I opened up the financial books to senior staff. No more secrets. Everyone knew where the money was going, and why. Second, I put together a real board of directors, made up of respected investors, cybersecurity experts, and even 2 employees voted in by the team. Third, I rewrote our company values. Not just slogans on the wall, but real values. Transparency over power. People over profit, long-term impact, over short-term wins. We also added a new rule. No major decision would be made without team input, and that includes mine. At first, some people were skeptical, but slowly, things began to shift. Developers stayed late, not because they were afraid, but because they were excited. Our customer support team started receiving thank you emails from beta clients. We hired more women, more people of color, and more professionals from non-traditional tech backgrounds. We were becoming the company I had always imagined we could be, and not just a tech company, but a place where people were valued, where leadership meant listening, not controlling. Around that time, something beautiful happened. I received a letter in the mail. It was handwritten, in neat cursive, on thick ivory paper. It was from one of my father's former business partners, Mr. Langston. He had known my dad for 30 years before the plane crash. In the letter he wrote, "Rebecca, your father was one of the most principled men I ever met. He always said, if you build something with heart, it will last longer than you. I see that same spirit in what you're doing with Secure Frame. Your parents would be proud." I sat at my desk, holding that letter, and cried for the first time in months, not out of sadness, but because I finally felt peace. That same week, a small business client, who had used our early software, called our office. The owner, a woman named Carla who ran a digital medical clinic, left a voicemail. "I just wanted to say thank you. After we installed Secure Frame's encryption tool, we stopped getting phishing attempts and weird login alerts. We finally feel safe. Please tell your team they're making a real difference. It wasn't a $1 million deal. It wasn't a flashy investor or a Silicon Valley headline, but it mattered, because that was the goal now, to build something real, something lasting, something that helped people, not just made money."
6 months after Marcus left the company, I stood on stage at a cybersecurity conference in Boston. I was giving a keynote talk called Leadership After Betrayal. In the audience were over 1,000 tech professionals. Some knew my story, some didn't. I spoke honestly about being a woman in a male-dominated space, about marrying someone who saw me as a bank account, not a partner, and about learning to take back my power, not by screaming or seeking revenge, but by building. At the end of the speech, I said pain changes people, but you get to choose what it changes you into. I chose to turn my pain into purpose. And if you're in this room with a broken heart and a shattered plan, don't give up. Sometimes the worst moment of your life is the start of something better than you ever imagined. The room gave a standing ovation, and in that moment, I knew I hadn't just rebuilt a company, I had rebuilt myself. A full year had passed since Marcus was removed from Secure Frame. In that time, the company had not only survived, it had thrived. We launched our first product 3 months ahead of schedule, secured a partnership with a major hospital network, and were even featured in a Forbes article titled "Secure Frame, the startup that chose integrity over ego." It was everything I dreamed of building and more. But life, as always, had one more surprise waiting for me. And this one had a name I hadn't heard in a long time: Marcus Reynolds. It started with an email. The subject line was just one word: coffee. I stared at it for a full minute. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. I wasn't angry or nervous. I was curious. Why now? I didn't reply right away. I let it sit. I showed it to Cheryl. She raised one eyebrow and said, "Let him drink alone." I laughed, but a small part of me wanted to see what he had to say, face to face. So I replied, "Sure. Wednesday, 2 p.m., Bryant Park Grill." When I walked into the restaurant, he was already seated. He looked different, older, more tired. Gone was the tailored suit and confident grin. He wore a wrinkled shirt and kept checking his phone, as if waiting for something that wouldn't come. He stood when he saw me. "Rebecca," he said, like we were old friends. I didn't hug him. I didn't smile. I just sat down. We ordered coffee. Nothing more. Then he finally spoke. "I've been following the company. You've done amazing things." I nodded. "We have." He paused. "I made mistakes," he said quietly. "I let my ego get in the way. I lost focus. I hurt you." I didn't say anything. He continued, "I've been consulting here and there. Small contracts. Nothing steady. Investors won't touch me. After everything that happened." That was true. His girlfriend had publicly apologized for her videos, but the damage was done. No serious firm would fund a man with a reputation like his. Then he looked at me with something I hadn't seen in a long time: desperation. "I want to come back," he said. "Not as CEO, just something. Advisory, consulting. I can help. I know the product better than anyone. I helped build it." That was his pitch. After everything, after using me, lying, throwing me out, stealing my money, suing me, now because his other options were gone, he wanted to come back. He expected mercy. What he got was truth. I took a slow sip of my coffee. Then I looked him straight in the eyes. "You didn't build Secure Frame," I said. "You used it as a mirror to admire yourself in. The company survived because people who actually cared picked up the pieces after you shattered it." He opened his mouth, but I raised a hand.
You used my love, my grief, my money, and when you were done, you laughed and told me to leave. I walked away with dignity. Now I'm going to do it again. I stood up, took a $20 bill from my wallet, and placed it on the table. This time I said, coffee's on me. It's the last thing you'll ever get from me. Then I walked out. I didn't look back. That night I sat on my apartment balcony, overlooking the same city where everything had started, the same skyline I once looked at with Marcus beside me. Only this time, I wasn't mourning what I had lost. I was celebrating what I had built. I thought about my parents, my late night study sessions in law school, the hikes, the heartbreak, the emails, the court battles, the nights I cried, the mornings I stood up anyway. And then I thought of something my father once told me when I was 16. Don't wait for someone to hand you your worth. Build it, own it, protect it. I smiled, because that's exactly what I had done. 3 months later, Secure Frame crossed $50 million in revenue. We opened a second office, launched our software in Europe, and began mentoring other women-led startups. Not because we had to, but because I wanted to leave the door open for someone else like me. Someone smart, strong, and just needing a chance. That's what legacy means. Not the money, not the name, but the impact. Sometimes people ask me if I still think about Marcus. I do, but not with anger. He taught me something I'll never forget. That betrayal doesn't define you. What you do after it does. Thank you for watching my story. And if you're still here listening, I want you to know you are worth more than what someone else decided you were. You are allowed to rebuild, and you are allowed to be better, stronger, and wiser than you were before. So go ahead, rewrite your story, just like I did.